The sound cuts through the train car like a blade through silk. High-pitched, relentless, gut-wrenching. A baby's cry. Not the fussy whimper of a child wanting attention, but the desperate wail of an infant in genuine distress. Passengers shift uncomfortably in their seats, pretending to be absorbed in their phones, their newspapers, anything to avoid looking toward the source of the disturbance. But they can't help stealing glances. In the center of the first-class cabin sits Kang Tae-jun, the man who makes grown men weep with a single phone call. The man whose name is whispered in back alleys from Seoul to San Francisco. The man who once dismantled an entire rival operation in 72 hours without leaving his office. That man is being utterly destroyed by a 10-pound infant. His suit is immaculate, hand-tailored, charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Dragon tattoos coil up from his collar, ancient symbols of power rendered in exquisite detail across his throat. His face could have been carved from stone, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that speaks of generations of warriors, eyes dark enough to drown in. Everything about him screams danger, authority, control, except for the baby in his arms who won't stop screaming. Kang Tae-jun has faced down police raids, survived 3 assassination attempts, negotiated truces that saved hundreds of lives. But right now, holding his 3-month-old son Min-ho, he looks like a man watching his entire empire crumble to dust. The baby's face is flushed crimson, tiny fists beating against his father's chest. Sweat beads on Tae-jun's forehead despite the air conditioning. His hands that have signed death warrants and billion-dollar contracts, tremble as they try to rock the child. "Boss!" His lieutenant, Sang-ki, leans in close. "We can stop. Find a doctor. There's a hospital at the next—" "No." Tae-jun's voice is granite. "We don't deviate." But the baby doesn't care about schedules. Min-ho's mother died bringing him into this world 3 months ago, and since then, nothing has been right. The child refuses every bottle, every pacifier, every nanny Tae-jun hires quits within days, terrified by the baby's inconsolable screaming or by the armed guards at every door. The pediatricians say there's nothing medically wrong, but Tae-jun knows better. His son is dying, slowly, fading. Dehydration, failure to thrive, fancy terms for a baby giving up on life. And Kang Tae-jun, who can solve any problem with enough money or force, is powerless. 5 rows back, Rachel Davis hears the crying and feels her body betray her. That familiar ache, the tightening in her chest, the way her breasts respond to an infant's distress, even though it's been 6 months since she held her own daughter. She closes her eyes, breathing through the pain. After losing her job at the neonatal unit and burning through her savings, she's heading to her sister's place to regroup, to figure out how to rebuild a life that keeps falling apart. But that sound, that desperate, hungry cry, she knows it too well. Rachel grips the armrest, fighting against every instinct screaming at her to stay seated. She's seen what happens to Black women who insert themselves where they don't belong. She's lived it. But the crying intensifies, and suddenly she's unbuckling her seatbelt, standing up, moving down the aisle before her rational mind can stop her. Other passengers watch her with a mixture of relief and morbid curiosity. The train attendant materializes beside her, hopeful but hesitant. Then Rachel sees him, the man holding the baby. Even in distress, he radiates lethal authority. The tattoos on his neck tell stories in a language she doesn't speak, but understands instinctively. This is someone dangerous. The bodyguard behind him stands with predatory stillness, hand resting near his jacket in a way that makes her throat go dry. The other passengers, particularly the Korean businessman in first class, won't even make eye contact with him. And she's about to walk up to this man and offer to save his child. If stories about broken people finding each other in impossible situations pull at your heart, make sure you're subscribed. This isn't just a love story, it's about grief, survival, and the price of kindness in a ruthless world. And trust me, this is only the beginning. Rachel forces her feet to keep moving, even as every survival instinct she possesses screams at her to turn around. Up close, Kang Tae-jun is even more intimidating. The sharp planes of his face are tight with barely restrained desperation. His eyes, God, those eyes, sweep up to meet hers, and for a moment, she forgets how to breathe. They're not just dark, they're black holes that could swallow her whole. Sir, her voice comes out steadier than she feels. I'm a neonatal nurse. Former neonatal nurse. I might be able to help. Tae-jun's gaze cuts through her like a blade, assessing, calculating. She sees the exact moment he catalogues everything about her. Her worn cardigan, her natural hair pulled back in a simple style, the way she stands with her shoulders squared, despite her obvious fear. The way she looks directly at his son, instead of at the weapons she must know are nearby. You're American. It's not a question. His English is perfect, only the slightest accent coloring the edges. I'm a nurse, Rachel repeats, and that baby is dehydrated. Possibly hasn't had a proper feeding in days. If you don't get fluids into him soon... She stops herself. You don't threaten a man like this, even with medical facts. The baby screams again, and something cracks in Tae-jun's expression. Just for a second, just enough. What do you propose? Rachel's heart hammers against her ribs. This is insane. This is career-ending, life-altering insanity. But she looks at Min-ho, at his flushed skin, his sunken eyes, the way his tiny body is rigid with distress, and she knows she can't walk away. There's a private observation car at the end of the train, she says quietly. If you'll allow it, I can try to nurse him. My body is still producing milk from my own son. She swallows hard. He's not with me anymore, but I can help your baby. The silence that follows is suffocating. Sang-ki tenses behind his boss, hand moving fractionally closer to his weapon. Tae-jun stares at her like he's trying to see straight through to her soul, weighing variables she can't begin to understand. Then he stands. The movement is fluid, controlled, a predator in perfect command despite the screaming infant in his arms. He towers over her, close enough that she can smell his cologne, something expensive and dark, cedar and smoke. If you're lying, he says softly, if this is some scheme, some play, I'm just trying to save your son. Rachel's voice doesn't waver. That's all, I swear. Another beat. Another calculation behind those obsidian eyes. Then Kang Tae-jun nods once, sharp and decisive. Lead the way. The observation car is mercifully empty, all windows and soft lighting designed for passengers who want to watch the countryside blur past. Rachel's hands shake as she settles into the corner seat, as far from prying eyes as possible. Tae-jun follows, with Sang-ki flanking him, both men moving with the coordinated precision of soldiers. I'll need privacy, Rachel says, and she's amazed her voice works at all. Tae-jun hands her his son. The transfer is awkward. Min-ho is still screaming, still writhing, but the moment Rachel cradles him against her chest, something shifts. Maybe it's her body temperature. Maybe it's the different heartbeat. Maybe it's just the universe taking pity on a dying child. Min-ho's cries soften to desperate whimpers. Tae-jun's eyes widen fractionally. It's the most emotion she's seen from him. Turn around, Rachel whispers. For a moment, she thinks he'll refuse. This man doesn't take orders. But then he pivots, positioning himself between her and the door, a living barrier. Sang-ki does the same, both men standing guard while Rachel arranges her cardigan, lifts her shirt, and guides Min-ho to her breast. The baby latches immediately, desperately, like he's been waiting his entire short life for this moment. Rachel feels tears spill down her cheeks as Min-ho drinks, his tiny hand clutching at her finger. She thinks of Franklin, of the weight she'll never hold again, of the milk her body kept producing for months after her son died, as if her body refused to accept what her mind knew. Grief and relief tangle together in her chest until she can't breathe. Behind her, she hears it, a sound so quiet she almost misses it. Kang Tae-jun, the feared Mafia boss, the untouchable crime lord, lets out a shaking breath that sounds remarkably like a sob caught before it could escape. 20 minutes later, Minho is asleep in Rachel's arms, his face peaceful for the first time in weeks. His tiny chest rises and falls with deep, steady breaths. The flush has faded from his cheeks. He looks, finally, like a healthy baby should. Rachel looks up to find Tae-Jun watching her with an expression she can't read. Gratitude, yes, but something else. Something calculating and possessive that makes her pulse quicken with a fear that has nothing to do with violence. "What's your name?" he asks. "Rachel. Rachel Davis." Rachel Davis. He tastes her name like he's memorizing it. "You saved my son's life." "I just fed him. You should find a wet nurse, or maybe try different formulas." "No." The word is absolute. "You. It has to be you." Rachel's blood runs cold. "I can't just. I have my own life. I need to." "Name your price." Tae-Jun moves closer, crouching so he's at eye level. Up close, she can see the faint scars on his jaw, the exhaustion carved into the corners of his eyes. "Whatever you need, whatever you've lost, I'll give you everything." "I don't want your money." "Then what do you want?" The question hangs in the air between them. Rachel looks down at Minho, so peaceful in her arms, and feels the answer form in her chest before her mind can stop it. "I want to matter again. I want to save someone. I want to believe that my grief can become something beautiful instead of just emptiness." But what she says is, "I want to go home." Tae-Jun studies her for a long moment, then reaches into his jacket. Rachel's muscles lock, but he only pulls out a card, heavy stock, embossed with Korean characters and a phone number. "When you're ready to stop running," he says quietly, "call this number. I'll send a car." "I'm not running." "Yes, you are." His eyes pin her in place. "I recognize the look, Rachel Davis. You think you're going to your sister's house to regroup, but you're really going there to disappear, to let the world forget you existed." The truth of it steals her breath. Tae-Jun gently takes his sleeping son from her arms, cradling Minho with a tenderness that seems impossible from a man who radiates such deadly intent. He looks down at his child, then back at Rachel. "My son needs you," he says, "and I think you need him too. When you accept that, make the call. I'll be waiting." Then he's gone, Sang-Ki closing ranks behind him, leaving Rachel alone in the observation car with a stranger's business card and the ghost of a baby's weight still warm against her chest. She tells herself she'll throw the card away at the next stop, but when the train finally pulls into the station 3 hours later, the card is still in her pocket, her fingers tracing its edges like a lifeline. Or a detonator. She just doesn't know which yet. The observation car feels like a world unto itself. Beyond the windows, countryside blurs into streaks of green and gold, but inside, time moves differently. Slower, more deliberate. Rachel settles into the corner seat, her body remembering motions she thought she'd never perform again. Minho's cries have softened to desperate, hungry whimpers as she arranges her cardigan, creating a shield of privacy in this glass-walled sanctuary. Tae-Jun stands with his back to her, a living wall between Rachel and the rest of the world. His shoulders are rigid beneath that impeccable suit, but she can see the tension thrumming through him. Sang-Ki mirrors his position at the door, both men standing guard like sentinels at a temple. When Minho latches, the relief is instantaneous. The baby's tiny hand clutches at Rachel's finger with surprising strength, and she feels something inside her chest crack open. This isn't Franklin, she knows that, but her body doesn't care about logic or loss. It only knows that a baby is feeding, that she's needed, that her grief can finally become something other than a weight dragging her under. Minutes pass. 5, 10, 15. Minho's desperate gulping gradually slows to a steady rhythm. His flushed skin begins to cool. The rigid tension in his tiny body melts away, replaced by the soft, boneless surrender of a satisfied infant. Behind her, Rachel hears Tae-Jun's breathing change. It's subtle, just a slight hitch, a pause that stretches too long. She glances over her shoulder and sees him standing perfectly still, his head slightly bowed, one hand pressed against the window as if he needs it to hold himself upright. "You can turn around," she says softly. "He's almost done." Tae-jun pivots slowly. When his eyes meet hers, Rachel sees something that stops her breath. Not just gratitude, not just relief. Something rawer, more desperate, like a man who's just watched a miracle and knows he can never let it slip away. He crosses the space between them in 3 silent steps, then drops into a crouch beside her seat. Up close, without the barrier of distance and danger, he looks younger, exhausted, human. The dragon tattoos at his throat seem less like symbols of power and more like scars trying to tell a story. "He's never—" Tae-jun's voice cracks. He stops, swallows, tries again. 3 months. 3 months of watching him fade. The doctor said there was nothing wrong, but I knew. I could see it in his eyes, like he'd already given up on living. Rachel looks down at Min-ho, now sleeping peacefully against her chest, milk-drunk and content. His tiny lips are still pursed, dreaming of feeding. "Babies need more than nutrition," she whispers. "They need connection, warmth, something the bottles couldn't give him." "You gave it to him." Tae-jun's hand hovers near Min-ho's head, trembling. "In 15 minutes, you gave him what I couldn't in 3 months. You kept him alive long enough for him to find help. That counts for something." "Does it?" His eyes lift to hers, and Rachel sees the weight he carries. "His mother died because of me, because of who I am, what I do, the enemies I've made, and I couldn't even keep her son from following her." Rachel should be terrified. This man is confessing to a life of violence, of choices that got people killed. Instead, she sees a father who's been drowning and doesn't know how to ask for help. "He's not following her," Rachel says firmly. "Look at him! He's here! He's fighting! You just needed to find the right kind of help." Tae-jun stares at his sleeping son, then back at Rachel. When he speaks, his voice carries the weight of an oath. "I can't let you walk away from him. From us. Name your price. Anything." "I already told you. $1 million. The words are flat, factual. 2 million. I'll buy you a house. Set up a trust fund. Whatever you need to never worry about money again." Rachel's throat goes dry. That kind of money could change everything. She could pay off debt, go back to school, give her daughter— No. She doesn't have a daughter anymore. The grief hits fresh, sharp as always. She closes her eyes, feeling tears slip free. "I can't be bought," she whispers. "I'm not for sale." "Then what?" Tae-jun leans closer, his voice dropping to something dangerously soft. "What do you need, Rachel Davis? Because my son needs you, and I will give you anything, anything to keep you in his life." Rachel looks down at Min-ho one more time. At his peaceful face, his tiny fingers still wrapped around hers. She thinks about going to her sister's place, about disappearing into someone else's guest room, about becoming invisible. Or she could matter. She could be needed. She could turn her grief into purpose. 1 month, she hears herself say. Give me 1 month to think, to figure out what this would even look like. Tae-jun's eyes flash with something like triumph, but he nods slowly. 1 month, but you'll stay, at my home, where I can protect you. Protect me from what? His smile is all edges and shadows. From everything, Rachel, from everything. The car that picks Rachel up from the train station isn't just expensive, it's a fortress on wheels. Bulletproof glass, reinforced panels. Sankey at the wheel with another guard in the passenger seat, both men wearing earpieces and expressions carved from granite. Rachel sits in the back with Min-ho sleeping in a car seat that probably cost more than her last month's rent, and watches the city give way to sprawling estates hidden behind walls and ancient trees. When they finally turn onto a private road, Rachel's stomach drops. The gates are iron and ornate, 15 feet tall, with security cameras tracking their approach. Beyond them, The driveway stretches for what looks like half a mile, lined with cherry trees that would be beautiful if they didn't feel like sentries marking the path to a kingdom she doesn't belong in. The estate itself rises from the landscape like something out of a dark fairy tale. Modern architecture blended with traditional Korean elements, all sharp angles and dark wood, glass and stone, beautiful and utterly impenetrable. Armed guards patrol the perimeter, not pretending to be gardeners or maintenance workers, just guards, with visible weapons and cold eyes that track the car as it passes. Jesus, Rachel breathes. Sang-ki glances at her in the rearview mirror. Boss takes security seriously. After what happened to Minho's mother, he doesn't take chances. Rachel wants to ask what happened, but the gates closing behind them with a heavy, final clang steals the words from her throat. She's not just entering a home. She's entering a compound, a fortress designed to keep the world out, or to keep people in. The main entrance is flanked by more guards. Inside, the foyer is breathtaking. Soaring ceilings, minimalist furniture that probably belongs in a museum, and art on the walls that Rachel recognizes from her college art history class. Original pieces, millions of dollars hanging casually like posters. A woman approaches, older, Korean, dressed in elegant black with silver hair pulled into a severe bun. Her eyes rake over Rachel with undisguised disdain. "This is Mrs. Cho," Sang-ki says. "She runs the household." Mrs. Cho's English is clipped, precise. "The nursery is prepared on the 3rd floor. I will show you." Rachel follows her through hallways that feel more like hotel corridors than a home. Everything is spotless, sterile, controlled. They pass closed doors and silent staff members who avert their eyes when Rachel looks at them. The 3rd floor is quieter, more isolated. The nursery is enormous, a full suite with a bedroom, bathroom, sitting area, and the actual baby's room done in soft blues and whites. "You will stay here," Mrs. Cho says, "with the child. Boss's orders." "Wait, I'm staying in the nursery?" "Where else?" Mrs. Cho's expression suggests Rachel is being deliberately obtuse. "The baby must be fed every few hours. You will be available." The words hit like a slap. Available. Like she's staff. Like she's been hired for a service. Before Rachel can respond, raised voices echo from somewhere below. Korean, rapid-fire, and angry. Mrs. Cho's expression tightens. "You should stay here," she says quickly, then leaves before Rachel can ask questions. But Rachel can't stay. Not with those voices getting louder, more heated. She follows the sound down 2 flights of stairs to a set of double doors standing partially open. Inside, Tae-jun stands at the head of a long table surrounded by men in expensive suits. They're all shouting at once, gesturing wildly, their anger palpable even through the language barrier. Then she catches one word repeated over and over. One word she recognizes from the train attendant's hesitant expression, from Mrs. Cho's disdain. The word is American. An older man, silver-haired, commanding, wearing a suit that cost more than a car, slams his hand on the table. He points at Tae-jun, his face twisted with rage, and spits something that makes every man in the room go silent. Tae-jun's response is quiet, deadly calm, but Rachel sees his hands curl into fists. The older man turns and storms toward the door. He nearly collides with Rachel standing in the hallway. His eyes widen, then narrow with contempt. He looks her up and down like she's something contaminating his shoe, then says something to Tae-jun that drips with venom. Rachel doesn't need a translation. She knows hatred when she hears it. The man leaves, followed by half the room. The remaining men look shell-shocked. Sang-ki appears at Rachel's side, gently but firmly guiding her back toward the stairs. "What just happened?" Rachel demands. Sang-ki's expression is grim. "You just met Chairman Oh, Tae-jun's biggest rival, and he just declared war." Rachel looks back toward the conference room, where Tae-jun stands alone amid the wreckage of whatever alliance just shattered. "Because of me?" "Because of what you represent." Sang-ki's voice drops. "Chairman Oh believes you're corrupting the Kang bloodline. That Minho drinking from an American woman, a Black American woman, is an insult to tradition, to purity. The words make Rachel's skin crawl. So I'm the problem. No. Taejun's voice cuts through the hallway. He stands in the doorway of the conference room, his expression carved from stone. They are the problem, and I will bury every single one of them before I let them touch my son. Or you. Rachel meets his eyes across the distance and realizes with crystalline clarity that she hasn't joined a family. She's walked into the center of a war. 3 days pass like a held breath. Rachel tends to Min-ho in their isolated tower, watching the baby bloom under her care. He's gaining weight, sleeping better, smiling for the first time. But beyond the nursery walls, the estate feels like a powder keg waiting for a spark. The staff won't meet her eyes. Mrs. Cho delivers meals with barely concealed hostility, and Taejun is gone more than he's present, locked in endless meetings that Rachel can hear through the walls. Voices raised in Korean, doors slamming, the weight of something terrible building. On the 4th morning, Sang-ki appears at her door, looking like he hasn't slept. Boss wants you downstairs, in the main hall. Why? What's happening? Just stay quiet, no matter what they say. Please. The main hall is designed to intimidate. 30-foot ceilings, ancestral portraits lining the walls, and at the center, a raised platform where Taejun sits in what can only be called a throne. He looks every inch the crime lord. Dark suit, hair slicked back, expression carved from ice. But Rachel sees the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers grip the armrest. 20 men fill the room. Older, powerful, radiating the kind of wealth and authority that comes from generations of control. They stand in a semicircle, and at their center is Chairman Oh, looking like a judge about to pass sentence. Sang-ki guides Rachel to stand off to the side. Alone, exposed. Chairman Oh begins speaking, his voice carrying through the hall like thunder. Rachel doesn't understand the words, but she understands tone. Accusation, contempt, righteous anger. He gestures toward her repeatedly, each motion dripping with disdain. Then, one of Taejun's own advisors steps forward, a man she recognizes from that first disastrous meeting. He speaks in English, deliberately, so Rachel will understand every word. The council has reached a consensus. The Kang name has endured for 6 generations because we have maintained our standards, our bloodline, our traditions. His eyes cut to Rachel. This woman is a contamination. Her presence here, her intimate contact with the air, is an insult to everything we've built. Rachel's chest tightens. She wants to speak, to defend herself, but Sang-ki's warning echoes in her mind. Another advisor joins the first. Min-ho is the future of this family. He cannot be raised by someone who doesn't understand our ways, our culture, who represents everything we are not. She's turning the boy American, a third man adds. Soft, weak, dependent on outsiders. Chairman Oh smiles, cold and satisfied. He speaks again, and this time someone translates. The decree is simple. Remove the woman from the estate within 24 hours, or the Oh family will consider it a declaration of war. Every ally, every business partner, every territory we share, all of it ends. The Kang Empire will be dismantled piece by piece until nothing remains but ashes and memories. Silence falls like a guillotine blade. Taejun hasn't moved, hasn't spoken. He sits perfectly still, his dark eyes fixed on Chairman Oh with an intensity that makes the air feel electric. Are you finished? His voice is quiet, deadly. We await your answer. Taejun stands slowly, and despite everything, the room holds its breath. He descends from the platform, walking past his advisors, past Chairman Oh, until he stands directly in front of Rachel. The entire room watches as he reaches out and takes her hand. Here is my answer. He doesn't look at the council, doesn't acknowledge their existence. His eyes are locked on Rachel's. The woman stays. My son needs her, and anyone who has a problem with that can consider themselves an enemy of the Kang family. The room erupts, advisors shouting, Chairman O's face purpling with rage. But Taejun pulls Rachel closer, shielding her with his body. You just signed your death warrant, Chairman O spits. For what? For her? You would destroy everything your father built for a black American nurse who means nothing? Taejun finally looks at him, and Rachel has never seen anything colder than his smile. She means everything. And if you want war, Chairman O, I will give you a war that will make your ancestors weep. Touch her, threaten her, even look at her wrong, and I will burn the O Empire to its foundations and salt the earth where it stood. Chairman O steps forward, trembling with fury. Then it's done. The decree is issued. Every family, every syndicate from Seoul to San Francisco will know that Kang Taejun has chosen his whore over his legacy. The word hits Rachel like a fist. She gasps, stumbling back, but Taejun moves faster. His hand shoots out, closing around Chairman O's throat, lifting the older man onto his toes. Say it again, Taejun whispers, his voice a razor. Please, give me a reason. Sang-ki and two other guards pull Taejun back before he can do permanent damage. Chairman O staggers away, wheezing, his eyes promising murder. This isn't over, he rasps. No, Taejun agrees. It's just beginning. As the council files out, leaving threats and broken alliances in their wake, Rachel realizes she's shaking. Taejun turns to her, and beneath the fury, she sees something else. Fear. Not for himself, for her. Rachel finds him at midnight in the garden she didn't know existed. Beyond the fortress walls and security cameras, past the guard stations and armored gates, there's a sanctuary. Cherry trees planted in perfect rows, their branches heavy with blossoms that glow silver under the moon. Stone lanterns line paths that wind through carefully manicured grounds, and at the center, beneath the oldest tree, sits Kang Taejun. He's shed the suit jacket. His white shirt is unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled to his elbows, exposing the full breadth of the tattoos that climb his forearms. Dragons and phoenixes, yes, but also Korean characters she can't read, and something else, scars. Old ones, raised and white, cutting through the ink like cracks in porcelain. He doesn't turn when she approaches, but his shoulders tense. You should be sleeping. So should you. Rachel stops a few feet away, uncertain. Minho is down for at least 3 hours. I needed air. This garden was my mother's. Taejun's voice is distant, hollow. She planted these trees when I was 5. Said they would outlive all of us, that beauty could exist even in darkness. He finally looks at her, and Rachel sees exhaustion carved into every line of his face. She was wrong. She died when I was 12. Cancer ate her from the inside while my father built his empire and pretended not to notice. Rachel moves closer, drawn by the rawness in his voice. She settles onto the bench beside him, maintaining a careful distance. I'm sorry. Don't be. She's the lucky one. She died before she could see what I became. And what's that? Taejun's laugh is bitter. A monster wearing my father's face. He trained me from the moment she was in the ground, taught me that mercy was weakness, that love was a liability, that the only thing that mattered was power. He holds up his scarred hands. These are from my first lesson. I was 13. He made me hold burning coals until I stopped crying. Said a leader who shows pain is already dead. Rachel's stomach turns. That's not leadership. That's abuse. That's survival in my world. Taejun traces one of the scars absently. By 16, I'd killed my first man. By 20, I'd taken over operations my father was too cautious to attempt. By 25, I'd surpassed him completely. And by 30, I was exactly what he'd created, efficient, ruthless, and completely alone. Until Minho's mother. The name hangs between them like a ghost. Taejun's jaw tightens. Ji-won. Her name was Ji-won. She was a translator at a business negotiation. Brilliant, fearless, completely unimpressed by who I was. She looked at me and saw a man, not a monster. For 3 years, she made me believe I could be both. What happened to her? Chairman O happened. Taejun's voice drops to something lethal. Jiwon was half Japanese. Her grandmother survived Hiroshima. O considered that bloodline tainted. He made it clear that any alliance between our families would require me to end things with her. I refused. So he had her car forced off a bridge while she was 8 months pregnant. Rachel's breath catches. Oh my God. They pulled her out alive. Barely. She held on long enough to deliver Min-ho, long enough to make me promise I'd protect him. And then she died in my arms, bleeding out while I screamed for doctors who couldn't save her. Taejun's hands shake. I built this empire on violence, Rachel. I've done terrible things, hurt people who probably didn't deserve it. But Jiwon was innocent, and she died because she loved me. Rachel sees it now, the way he holds himself apart, the fortress he's built, not just around his home, but around his heart. He's not trying to control Min-ho by keeping Rachel close. He's terrified of losing another person he loves. That's why you wouldn't let me leave, she says softly. I watched my son dying the same way his mother did. Slowly, fading. And I couldn't stop it. Couldn't fix it with money or power or threats. Then you appeared like some kind of miracle, and he came back to life. You think I'm going to let that go? Let you walk away when you're the only thing keeping him alive? I'm not going to die, Taejun. That's what Jiwon said. His eyes meet hers, and Rachel sees the fear beneath the fury. Chairman O won't stop. He'll come for you, for Min-ho, for everything I love. And I can't... His voice breaks. I can't watch another woman die because of me. Rachel reaches out, her hand covering his scarred knuckles. He flinches, but doesn't pull away. Then teach me, she says. Teach me how to survive in your world, because I'm not running, and I'm not dying. Min-ho needs me, and I think... She takes a breath. I think you do too. Taejun stares at their joined hands, this small bridge between two broken people. Above them, cherry blossoms fall like snow, landing in Rachel's hair, on their shoulders, covering the scars and the fear with something that looks almost like hope. You're either very brave or very foolish, he whispers. Maybe both. Rachel squeezes his hand. But I'm here, and I'm not leaving. For the first time since she met him, Kang Taejun smiles. A real smile, small and fragile and devastating. Then I'll burn the world down to keep you safe. The explosion shatters Rachel awake at 2:47 a.m. Not close, but close enough to feel the tremor through the floor, to hear the distant wail of alarms cutting through the night. Min-ho starts crying immediately, his infant instincts recognizing danger even if he can't understand it. Rachel scoops him from the crib, her heart hammering. Through the nursery windows, she sees flames erupting from the east wing, orange and furious against the black sky. Gunfire cracks in rapid succession, shouting in Korean, the sound of running feet. The door crashes open. Sang-ki, gun drawn, blood streaking down his temple. Get away from the windows, now! Rachel doesn't argue. She backs into the corner of the nursery, shielding Min-ho with her body. What's happening? O's men. They breached the perimeter. Sang-ki positions himself at the door, scanning the hallway. Boss is handling the main assault. I'm getting you both out through the underground passage. Where is Taejun? Fighting. Sang-ki's expression is grim. There are too many. They knew exactly where to hit, exactly when to strike. Someone inside gave them intel. A traitor in the house. The thought makes Rachel's skin crawl. More gunfire, closer now. The lights flicker, then die, plunging them into darkness broken only by emergency lighting that casts everything in hellish red. Sang-ki activates a flashlight mounted on his weapon, sweeping the hallway. Move! Stay behind me! Don't stop for anything! They make it 3 steps before the stairwell explodes with gunfire. Sang-ki shoves Rachel back into the nursery as bullets tear through the walls, showering them with plaster and splinters. Min-ho's screams reach a pitch that tears at Rachel's heart. The window! Sangki gasps. There's a ledge. Leads to the service stairs. Or 3 stories up. It's 10 feet wide. You can do it. He's reloading. Movements automatic, despite the blood now pouring from a wound in his side. Go! Now! Rachel looks at the window, at the narrow ledge beyond, at the 3-story drop to the courtyard below where armed men are exchanging fire. It's suicide, but staying here is certain death. She wraps Minho tighter against her chest, securing him with her cardigan tied into a makeshift sling. The window opens with a shriek of metal. Cold wind hits her face. The ledge stretches along the building's face, barely wide enough for her feet. I've got you covered, Sangki says. Don't look down, just move. Rachel steps out into the void. The ledge is slick with rain she didn't know was falling. Wind tears at her clothes, threatening to rip her from the wall. Minho's cries are lost in the chaos. Below, muzzle flashes light up the courtyard like lightning. She inches forward, hands pressed against the stone, every muscle screaming. Behind her, the nursery window explodes in gunfire. She risks a glance back and sees Sangki stagger, clutching his chest. 3 men in black tactical gear pour through the door. Sangki raises his gun with the last of his strength and fires, dropping one, then another. The 3rd shoots him point blank. No! Rachel's scream is swallowed by thunder. Sangki falls, but his eyes find hers for one final second. His lips move, forming words she can't hear but understands anyway. Run. The 3rd man turns toward the window, toward Rachel, raising his weapon. She's exposed, trapped, with nowhere to go but down. She closes her eyes, pressing Minho against her heart, preparing for the impact of bullets. The shot never comes. Instead, the man's head snaps back, a red mist exploding where his skull used to be. He drops like a puppet with cut strings. Rachel looks down to the courtyard and sees Taejun, rifle to his shoulder, face splattered with blood and rain, his expression something beyond rage. Their eyes meet across the distance. Even from here, she sees the terror in his face. Move! His voice cuts through the chaos. The service stairs! Go! Rachel forces her legs to work. 20 feet? 15. The service door is ahead, set back in an alcove. 10 feet. 5. Her hand closes on the handle. It's locked. She yanks uselessly, panic rising. Behind her, more men are entering the nursery, stepping over Sangki's body. They're coming. Then the door explodes outward. Taejun, drenched in rain and blood, grabs her and pulls her inside. He slams the door, throws the bolt, and they're running down narrow concrete stairs that spiral into darkness. Sangki! Rachel gasps. He saved us! I know. Taejun's voice is raw. He bought you time. That's what mattered. They emerge into an underground garage where 2 cars wait, engines running. Taejun shoves Rachel into the back seat, Minho still clutched to a chest, and slides behind the wheel. Tires scream as they rocket up the ramp and into the night. Rachel looks back at the estate, at the flames consuming the east wing, at the bodies scattered across the courtyard, at the nursery window where Sangki died buying her 30 seconds. Where are we going? She whispers. Taejun's hands are white-knuckled on the wheel, his jaw so tight she thinks it might shatter. When he speaks, his voice is hollow. Somewhere they'll never find you, even if I have to tear down everything I've built to make it happen. In the rearview mirror, the Kang estate burns like a funeral pyre for the life that's just ended. The safe house is a modest apartment in a neighborhood where no one asks questions and everyone minds their business. 2 bedrooms, functional kitchen, windows that face a brick wall. It's the opposite of everything Taejun represents. Small, anonymous, forgettable. Perfect. Rachel hasn't slept in 36 hours. Minho finally dozes in a makeshift crib fashioned from dresser drawers and blankets. She watches Taejun at the kitchen table, surrounded by laptops and phones and documents that blur together in her exhausted vision. He hasn't stopped working since they arrived, hasn't eaten, hasn't slept, just sits there, making call after call, signing papers, sending encrypted messages into the void. "What are you doing?" she finally asks. Tae-jun doesn't look up. "Dismantling an empire." He slides a document across the table. Rachel recognizes some of the words: legal jargon, corporate language, transfer of assets. Numbers that make her head spin. Millions. Tens of millions. "I'm liquidating everything," Tae-jun says, his voice flat, mechanical. "The shipping companies, the real estate holdings, the legitimate businesses my father spent decades building. All of it. Every asset that can be traced. Every investment that carries the Kang name. I'm selling it off piece by piece." Why? Because Chairman Oh wants war, and war requires resources. Territory, money, leverage. Tae-jun finally meets her eyes, and Rachel sees something broken behind the calculation. If I have nothing left to fight over, if the Kang Empire ceases to exist, then there's nothing for him to take. No throne to claim, no legacy to destroy. "You're giving up everything you built." "I'm buying your life." He returns to his laptop, fingers flying over the keys. "Yours and Minho's. That's worth more than any empire." Over the next 3 days, Rachel watches a man systematically erase himself from existence. Tae-jun transfers businesses to rivals, sells properties at fractions of their worth, dissolves partnerships that took years to forge. Each signature is a small death. Each transaction, a piece of his identity peeled away and discarded. The illegal operations are harder. Those require different negotiations, meetings in parking garages, conversations in languages Rachel doesn't speak, exchanges that leave Tae-jun looking hollowed out and older than his years. "The drug distribution network went to the Chen family," he tells her on the 4th day. "The gambling operations to the Bratva. The protection rackets are being absorbed by former lieutenants who'll probably tear each other apart within a month." He laughs, bitter and sharp. "My father spent his life building connections, and I'm severing them all in less than a week." Rachel sits beside him, studying the stranger wearing Tae-jun's face. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." He pulls up a bank statement, points to a number that steals her breath. "This is yours, a trust fund in Minho's name, with you as the sole beneficiary until he's 18. Offshore accounts, impossible to trace. Enough money that you'll never have to work again, never have to ask anyone for anything. If something happens to me..." "Nothing's going to happen to you." "If something happens," he continues firmly, "you take Minho and disappear. New identities are already prepared. Passports, birth certificates, complete histories. You can be anyone, go anywhere. Live a normal life far away from all of this." The documents he slides across the table show Rachel Davis erased, replaced by Sarah Mitchell from Portland, a widow with a mixed-race adopted son. Complete with school records, employment history, even social media accounts backdated years. "You've thought of everything," Rachel whispers. "I have to." Tae-jun's hand trembles as he reaches for another file. "Sang-ki died protecting you. Ji-won died loving me. I won't..." His voice cracks. "I won't add your name to that list, even if it means destroying everything I am." Rachel watches him sign away another building, another business, another piece of his soul. This man who held power like a weapon is choosing to be powerless, choosing vulnerability, choosing her. "What about you?" she asks. "What happens to Kang Tae-jun when there's no empire left?" He's quiet for a long moment, staring at the pile of documents that represent his entire life reduced to paper and ink. When he speaks, his voice is barely a whisper. Maybe he gets to be just a man, just a father trying to protect his son. His eyes find hers. Maybe he gets to pretend, just for a little while, that he deserves something good. Rachel reaches across the table, covering his hand with hers. "You do deserve it." "I've killed people, Rachel. Destroyed lives. Built my fortune on suffering and fear. And now you're tearing it all down to save 2 people who have nothing to offer you except their survival." She squeezes his hand. That has to count for something. Taejun looks at their joined hands like he's seeing a miracle. Outside, the city hums with life. People going to work, children playing, the world spinning on as if an empire isn't collapsing in this tiny apartment. One more meeting, he says quietly. Tomorrow, with Chairman O. I'm going to give him everything. Every ledger, every contact, every secret. Complete surrender. And in exchange, he leaves you alone. Forever. Rachel's stomach drops. That's suicide. He'll kill you. Probably. Taejun's smile is sad, resigned. But you'll be safe. That's all that matters. No! Rachel's voice turns to steel. We find another way. Together. There is no other way. Then I'm coming with you. For the first time in days, emotion cracks through Taejun's careful control. Absolutely not. You don't get to sacrifice yourself and expect me to just accept it. Rachel stands, fury and fear warring in her chest. We survive together, or we don't survive at all. The plan was simple. Too simple, Rachel realizes now. While Taejun met with Chairman O, she and Min-ho would be driven to a private airfield. New passports, new lives waiting across the ocean. Clean, safe, final. The plan lasted exactly 11 minutes. The black SUV appears from nowhere, cutting off their sedan on a stretch of empty highway. Then another behind them, a third boxing them in from the side. Rachel's driver, one of Taejun's last loyal men, reaches for his gun, but it's already too late. The window explodes inward. He slumps forward, blood spreading across the dashboard. Rachel screams, clutching Min-ho to her chest as the door is ripped open. Hands grab her, rough and efficient. She fights, kicking, biting, but there are too many. They drag her from the car into the blinding sunlight, Min-ho wailing in her arms. Chairman O stands beside his SUV, immaculate in a charcoal suit, looking like a businessman heading to lunch rather than a man orchestrating a kidnapping. Mrs. Davis. His English is perfect, cultured. How unfortunate that we meet again under such circumstances. Let us go. Rachel's voice shakes but doesn't break. Whatever this is, we're not part of it. On the contrary, you are the entire point. O gestures to one of his men, who produces a phone. Call him. Tell Kang Taejun that his whore and his bastard son are waiting for him. At the old factory in Songdo, he knows the place. Rachel's blood runs cold. He'll kill you. No. O's smile is reptilian. He'll surrender, because that's what weak men do when faced with losing what they love. They break, they bow, they beg. He leans closer, his breath hot on her face. And I will savor every second of his humiliation before I put a bullet in his skull. The factory is a skeleton of rusted metal and broken windows, abandoned years ago when the shipping routes changed. Rachel sits in the center of the cavernous space, Min-ho in her lap, surrounded by a dozen armed men. Chairman O has positioned himself on a platform overlooking the floor, a throne for a tyrant about to claim his kingdom. The wait is torture. Each second stretches into eternity. Min-ho fusses, hungry and frightened, but Rachel has nothing to give him except whispered promises that everything will be okay, lies that taste like ash on her tongue. Then she hears it. A car engine, footsteps echoing through the empty space. Taejun walks in alone. No guards, no weapons visible, just a man in a dark suit, hands slightly raised, moving with careful precision through the maze of machinery and debris. Rachel's heart fractures at the sight of him. He looks smaller somehow, diminished, like he's already surrendering before a word is spoken. I'm here. His voice carries through the factory. Let them go. Not yet. Chairman O descends from his platform, flanked by guards. First, we discuss terms. You have something I want. Taejun reaches into his jacket slowly, producing a metal case. Every ledger, every contact, every secret my family accumulated over 3 generations. Bank accounts, blackmail material, police and political connections, everything. He sets the case on the ground. It's yours, all of it. Just let them walk away. O approaches the case, opens it, scans the contents. His smile widens. This is more than I expected. With this, the O family will dominate every operation from Seoul to San Francisco. The Kang name will be nothing but a footnote in history. I don't care about history. Taejun's eyes find Rachel's across the distance. I care about them. How touching. O closes the case, hands it to a subordinate. But insufficient. What? You think I went to all this trouble just for information? For territory? O's expression turns venomous. I want you humiliated, destroyed. I want to watch the great Kang Taejun beg for mercy like the pathetic fool he is. Taejun's jaw tightens, but he doesn't flinch. Name your price. Kneel. The word falls like a guillotine blade. The guards tense, waiting. Rachel's breath catches. In their world, making a man kneel isn't just humiliation, it's annihilation. Every witness here will spread the story. The legend of Kang Taejun will die in this moment, replaced by the image of a broken man on his knees. Taejun meets Rachel's eyes one more time. She sees the question there, the fear, the love. She gives the tiniest nod. Do it. We're worth it. Kang Taejun, the man who never bowed, who faced death standing tall, who built an empire on the foundation of his pride, lowers himself to his knees on the filthy concrete floor. Chairman O's laugh echoes through the factory. Look at the mighty dragon, reduced to a worm. Say it. Say you're nothing. I'm nothing. Taejun's voice is hollow. Say the woman and the child mean more than your legacy. They mean everything. My legacy is ash. They are all that matters. Rachel feels tears streaming down her face. This man is destroying himself piece by piece, and she's helpless to stop it. O circles Taejun like a predator savoring a kill. Beg me to let them live. Taejun's hands curl into fists on his thighs, the only sign of the war raging inside him. When he speaks, his voice cracks. Please, I'm begging you, let them go. Take everything else, but let them live. Chairman O produces a gun, presses it against Taejun's temple. One more thing. Tell her goodbye. Tell Rachel Davis that you're sorry for dragging her into your world and getting her killed. The words freeze everyone. Rachel's eyes widen. Minho wails in her arms. No! Taejun's voice turns to steel. That wasn't the deal. There is no deal. O cocks the gun. There's only my mercy, and I have none. Rachel moves before her mind catches up to her body. She stands, Minho clutched against her chest, and walks directly toward the gun pressed against Taejun's temple. The guards tense, weapons tracking her movement, but she doesn't stop. Doesn't hesitate. She positions herself between Chairman O and Taejun, her back to the gun, her eyes locked on the man who wants them dead. Shoot, she says quietly. O's face contorts with confusion. What? You heard me. Shoot! Rachel's voice gains strength. But you'll have to go through me and this baby first. You'll have to murder an unarmed woman and a 3-month-old infant in front of all these witnesses. In front of your own men. Move aside, O snarls. No. Rachel shifts Minho in her arms so everyone can see his face. Innocent, helpless, mixed heritage written in every feature. Look at him. Really look. This baby didn't choose his parents, didn't choose his bloodline or his legacy. He's just a child who wants to live. If you kill him, if you kill me, you're not preserving tradition or honor. You're just a murderer. You don't understand our ways, O snaps. I understand hate. I've lived with it my entire life. Rachel's voice cracks. I've been told I don't belong, that my skin makes me less than human, that I'm contaminating spaces just by existing. Sound familiar? She looks at the assembled men. How many of you have children, grandchildren? Can you look at this baby and tell me he deserves to die for being born? Silence. Uncomfortable, heavy silence. Several guards exchange glances. "She's trying to manipulate you," O hisses. "Don't listen. I lost my son." Rachel's words cut through the factory like a blade. Sudden infant death syndrome. He died in his crib at 6 months old, and I couldn't stop it. Couldn't save him. For months, I wanted to die too. I walked through life like a ghost, like I was already buried next to him. Tears streamed down her face. Then Minho came into my life, and he gave me a reason to wake up, to breathe, to believe that maybe my grief could become something beautiful instead of just pain. She turns to O, and her voice drops to something fierce and unbreakable. "You want to punish Taejun? Fine. He's given you everything. His empire, his pride, his dignity. He's kneeling at your feet. What more do you need? What does killing us prove except that you're afraid? Afraid that maybe love is stronger than hate, that maybe a man who chooses his family over power is the real leader, not the coward hiding behind tradition and guns." O's hand trembles on the weapon. "You think words will save you?" "I think your men are watching." Rachel glances around the factory, and they're seeing a woman willing to die for a child while their boss is threatening to murder an infant to settle a grudge. Which one of you will be able to live with that? Which one will go home to your families tonight knowing you stood here and did nothing? One of the guards lowers his weapon, then another. Chairman O spins toward them, rage contorting his features. "Pick up those guns!" "No." The word comes from an older guard, silver-haired, with scars that speak of decades in this life. "She's right. This isn't war. This is murder, and I didn't spend 30 years in this business to shoot babies." "Traitor!" O swings the gun toward the guard. Taejun moves like lightning. He surges up from his knees, catching O's wrist, twisting the gun away. The weapon discharges, the bullet hitting concrete. They struggle for control, but O is older, slower. Taejun could kill him in seconds. Instead, he pins O to the ground and looks at Rachel. "Tell me what to do," he says, and there's no shame in the question. Just trust. "Violence is all I know, but you see another way, so tell me." Rachel looks at Chairman O, pinned and helpless, and feels the weight of the decision. Vengeance would be easy, justified even, but that's the old way, the cycle that never ends. "Let him go," she says. Taejun's eyes widen. "Rachel!" "Let him go!" She walks forward, still holding Minho. But first, he's going to look at this child. Really look. She crouches beside O. "You don't have to love him. You don't have to accept him. But you will acknowledge that his life has value, that your hate doesn't get to decide who lives and dies." O stares at Minho, at the baby's innocent face, his tiny hands grasping at Rachel's cardigan. Something flickers in the old man's eyes. Not love, not acceptance, but maybe the faintest recognition of shared humanity. "He's just a baby," O whispers, and he sounds tired, ancient. "Just a baby." "Yes," Rachel's voice gentles. "And you're just a man who's lost too much to hate. But this doesn't have to end in blood. It can end in peace, in letting go, in choosing to walk away." Taejun slowly releases O, stepping back but staying alert. The old man rises to his feet, straightening his suit with shaking hands. He looks at Rachel for a long moment. "You're either the bravest or the most foolish woman I've ever met." "I've been told that before." Rachel manages a weak smile. O looks at his assembled men, at the weapons lowered, at the empire crumbling around an act of mercy. He picks up the metal case containing the Kang family secrets. "Keep your woman and your bastard," he says to Taejun. "But if I ever see your face in my territory again, mercy won't save you twice." Then he's gone, his men filing out behind him, leaving Rachel and Taejun standing in the empty factory with Minho sleeping peacefully between them. Taejun pulls Rachel into his arms, careful of the baby, and his entire body shakes. "You saved us," he whispers. "With nothing but words and courage, you saved us all." Rachel leans into him, exhaustion crashing over her like a wave. I just told the truth, that's all. Just the truth. The sand is warm beneath Rachel's feet, fine and white as powdered sugar. She watches Minho toddle along the shoreline, his small hands reaching for foam that dissolves between his fingers. He laughs, pure, uninhibited joy, and the sound still catches her off guard sometimes. That this child who once screamed himself hoarse now squeals with delight at seagulls and crashing waves. He's 18 months old now, walking, babbling words in 2 languages, his eyes bright with curiosity instead of hunger. The doctors say he's thriving. Rachel knows he's more than thriving. He's alive in ways that go beyond heartbeats and breathing. Careful, Minho! Taejun's voice carries across the beach, gentle but alert. He's crouched at the water's edge, jeans rolled to his knees, hair tousled by salt wind. The dragon tattoos peek from his collar, but they look different here. Less like warnings, more like stories from another lifetime. He catches Minho as the boy stumbles, lifts him high into the air. Minho shrieks with laughter, his small hands tangling in his father's hair. And Taejun, the man who once signed death warrants without flinching, grins like he's witnessing miracles. Rachel walks to them, her sundress catching the breeze. The ring on her finger is simple, nothing like the ornate jewelry from Taejun's old life. They married 3 months ago in a courthouse ceremony with 2 witnesses and no guards. No empire, no threats, just 2 broken people choosing to be whole together. He's getting fast, Taejun says, settling Minho on his hip. Soon he'll be outrunning us both. You'll just have to keep up. Rachel slides under his free arm, fitting against his side like she was designed for that space. Old man? He laughs, the sound rich and unguarded. There are gray hairs at his temples now, stress and survival aging him beyond his years. But there's also peace in the lines around his eyes, a softness that wasn't there in that train car a lifetime ago. They sold everything that remained, donated the money to organizations helping at-risk youth, women fleeing violence, children caught in systems designed to break them. Taejun said he couldn't undo his past, but maybe he could fund someone else's future. This beach house is rented. Small, unremarkable, with neighbors who think they're just another family on vacation. No one recognizes Kang Taejun because that man doesn't exist anymore. There's only Daniel Kim, freelance consultant, who works remotely and spends his afternoons building sandcastles with his son. What are you thinking about? Taejun asks, reading the shift in her expression. That we made it. Rachel touches his face, traces the scar along his jaw. Against everything, we actually made it. You made it. You saved us all. He turns to kiss her palm. I was just smart enough to hold on. Minho squirms, demanding freedom, and they release him to toddle back toward the waves. They watch him go, hands linked, bodies aligned against the horizon. Do you miss it? Rachel asks quietly. The power, the control. Taejun is silent for a moment, considering. The old him would have lied, deflected, hidden behind walls built from necessity. This version tells the truth. Sometimes I miss the certainty, knowing I could fix any problem with enough force. He squeezes her hand. But then I look at Minho, at you, at this life we're building, and I realize I was never really in control. I was just surviving. This, he gestures at the beach, their sun, the vast ocean stretching endlessly before them. This is living. The sun begins its descent, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Minho runs back to them, sand-covered and triumphant, holding a broken shell like its treasure. Taejun lifts him, settling their son between them, and they stand as a unit, watching the day fade into something new. Da! Minho shouts, pointing at the horizon. Da! Yes, baby, Rachel whispers, pressing a kiss to his salt-sticky hair. It's beautiful. Behind them, the beach house glows with warm light. Inside, dinner will need to be made, baths given, bedtime stories read. All the ordinary, precious moments of a normal life. Ahead of them, the ocean stretches infinite, full of possibility and promise. And between them, this child, This miracle, born of grief and courage and a desperate cry on a train, holds both their hands, anchoring them to earth while teaching them to fly. "Ready to go home?" Taejun asks. Rachel looks at him, at Min-ho, at the horizon bleeding gold into darkness. She thinks about the woman who boarded that train months ago, lost, grieving, running from herself. That woman is gone, transformed by love and survival into someone new, someone brave enough to stay. "Yes," she says, and means it with every fiber of her being. "Let's go home." They walk back toward the house as the first stars emerge, three souls who found each other in the darkness and chose to walk into the light together. The waves erase their footprints as the tide comes in, washing away the past, leaving only the endless promise of tomorrow. The empire has fallen, the war is over, the dragon has shed his scales, and in their place, something infinitely more precious remains. A family, whole and healing, learning to live beyond the horizon of everything they once were.